Hey everybody, this is Ozark Pepper 1. It's Sunday night, and I'm just letting that play in the background for a visual. But one thing I've noticed is being around people, especially during the so-called holidays, you'll find out that those you knew for many, many years, those you looked up to, and a lot of you that are young, as you get older, you'll notice this. You'll find out that you're way higher up on the food chain than they are when it comes to brains and thinking, critical thinking. Being able to recognize things and not being caught up in the materialism of today. If you drive around and you drive to any big city, any small town, you go to a town of 4,000 or 5,000 people or more, then within 15 minutes of that town, you're going to find a new subdivision. And that's almost everywhere. And that's not by accident. Within 15 minutes of any population center, you're going to find a wealthy subdivision. It'll usually be gated. It'll be up on a hill. And it is part of the system that's always been in place, to where it's aristocrats. These are people that are above everyone else, and they want to be physically above everyone else, not just on the financial thing. They want to be up on the mountain looking down at the peasants. So they buy up all that property, and they make sure that only their people get in there. You have to make a certain amount of money before you are allowed to be in their vicinity, because you dirty peasants can't be near them. Well, those are also all within 15 minutes of any city. So where I'm going at with this, 15-minute cities, you own nothing and be happy. Another thing I've noticed, just with people of your past, you may bump into someone you haven't seen in a long time. You may be at their house, or it may be the people you're around every day in your immediate family. If you want to know how high up their elevator goes, all you have to do is observe. Do they hang out in the living room in front of the TV? If that's what they do, if they're on their phone and they're watching the TV and that is their thing, then that's what they are putting into their brain. They're sitting in front of that television taking all those waves, EMF waves is what they call them. Not just, the signal that's distorting the reality, the message that's distorting the reality from the programs they watch. So when you speak truth to them, you look crazy. They'll roll their eyes at you. They will act like you're disturbing their peace. Because actually when you talk to them, you are, because they are in blissful ignorance. When you state facts, name people, they look at you and say, "Who's that?" And you can name certain people in positions of power in your own state, your own neighborhood, all the way up to the federal level, and they won't know any of those names. And that, what I'm describing, is most people in this country. So that's why it's so hard to hold anyone accountable for what they do. It's why they get away with it. It's because no one even knows who they are. Because their mind is warped. It's controlled from cradle to grave. You know, the moment you walk into that school system, that's when they start pounding your head with, this is how you're supposed to live, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to watch, this is what you're supposed to eat. This is how much you're supposed to eat of this product. And all of this other stuff is good for you. And then 20 years later you find out, wait a minute, why do I have all these growths happening on me or something, you know? And it's from things that they gave us that they told us were good for us. So, you know, maybe it's a better life if someone's blissfully ignorant and not as observant and analytical of everything. You know, but it's hard to unsee things once you've seen it. And it's hard to not be filled with discernment once you have it. It's something you just can't turn off once your eyes are opened. And I've talked to people that I know that didn't know anything, and they've asked me, you know, honestly, sincerely wanting to know some things that are going on. And I asked them, are you sure you want to know? Do you think it won't affect you, you know, your day-to-day living and your financial situation, your job, you know? Because once you look at these things, it's hard to sleep. You know, it's hard to function. And I've told, maybe on past videos, I sat across from a table from a person that is very evil, very dark human being. And this person was proud of the evil things he was doing. Very evil. And I know 100% this guy is guilty. But I also know his day's coming. But, you know, the average person probably could not take on the information without having some kind of a heart trouble or some kind of mental breakdown. So maybe it's better that they don't know. But, you know, you see the world collapsing around everywhere else, and then you see other people putting $2,000 sets of wheels on their vehicles and, you know, out in the yard shining things up like it matters. And I use that as an example because you see that a lot. You know, that's something we can all relate to. We see it. We always see the dork out there polishing his wheels. But, it's other things too. You know, they might go buy a $30,000 motorcycle or something, or ATV, just to ride around and have some status with their other buddies that have one also. You know, it's just things you see that this country's become. A house used to be a home. It used to be a place where you were raised, and you had memories, and it would show up in the old Kodak photos or the Polaroids, uh, and they would be in the scrapbooks, and you'd flip through it, and you'd see pictures of the family members. You'd see the life, the happiness, and you don't see that anymore because people are buried in their faces are buried on Facebook and other places like that. So, you know, in my opinion, I think things would be better if we were back 30 years ago, 40 or 50 years ago, back to when people were more human beings and more interactive with each other face to face instead of through a screen, through a text, voicemail, or whatever. It's just not real. Nobody's real anymore. Everyone's out of shape. You know, everyone is lethargic. They don't want to do anything. Or they're so full of themselves, they think they've reached superstar status. You know, if they have any kind of a job that's one step above the other person. You know, if they make $1 more, then they're better than that person. And they've got that in their mind, whether they deliberately thought that or they've been programmed to think that way. You know, because I don't think that people originally were like that. You know, there's always been some kind of competition here and there over the years, but when I remember growing up, everyone had some kind of a job. They worked people worked for the state, people worked at the airplane places, the car places, they worked at the muffler shops, you know, some worked at the farms, they drove trucks, some worked in mines, and they did that as a job to come home and feed their family and make happy memories when the weekend rolled around and when they had their vacations. And back then, the average blue-collar person did all those things. And now the blue-collar person doesn't do those things. Some do after they've had many, many years at that job. And by then it's too late. Because you're at the point you should be looking back on memories than still trying to make them when you're barely moving around yourself. Anyway, I got up too early this morning, so I'm going to leave it at that, and y'all have a great week. Ozark Pepper 1 out.